Alright, so today we're going to be cleaning the Glock 19, and this will be very similar to any other Glock, pretty much. So the first thing we want to do is pull out the magazine and make sure that the chamber is clear. And to be able to disassemble a Glock, you actually have to dry fire it once, so make sure it's pointed in a safe direction. Go ahead and pull the trigger. Now, while holding the handgun this way, you'll be able to pull the slide back and hold it in place. You want to pull it back approximately an eighth of an inch to maybe a quarter of an inch. Now to release the slide lock, we need to pull both levers on the left and right side of the handgun down. So squeeze them tight, pull them down, and then push the slide forward and it should come off. Next, we want to go ahead and remove the spring and then remove the barrel. And now we're ready to get it cleaned up. What I'm going to be using is Huppy's number 9 bore cleaner, as well as for the lubricant oil, I will be using the CLP. I also have this little plastic handy tool that allows me to push the little cleaning patches into crevices and little corners of the handgun. So I got a bunch of these little white cleaning patches as well. And the brush I'll be using is the standard 9mm brush that came with the handgun itself. First thing I'm going to do is put some bore cleaner on the cleaning patch and then clean the barrel first. This is usually where I start off cleaning my handguns. And the purpose of this is to basically remove all the gunpowder that is on there. Obviously, if you go to the range fairly often, you shoot a lot of rounds, there will be quite a bit of gunpowder that needs to come off. And the bore cleaner is alcohol based, so it definitely attracts the gunpowder, and you'll be able to see exactly how dirty it gets. I'm going to go ahead and push the cleaning patch through just a few times to make sure we get the gunpowder from inside the barrel out as well. If you only shoot about 50 to 100, maybe 150 rounds, the cleaning patch by itself, should remove the majority of the gunpowder inside the barrel, and you don't really need to use the brush. However, if you've shot quite a lot of rounds or it's been a long time since you've cleaned it, then it does not hurt to push the brush through a few times as well. I do it over a paper towel just to see if there's any gunpowder that comes off. There really isn't, because my barrel is pretty clean. So I'm going to go ahead and push another patch through just in case, and it's still clean. Next, I'm going to use a microfiber towel to dry out the barrel. After I clean it, I like to make sure that it's fully dry. And one last check, make sure it's all clear. Then I'm going to go ahead and set it aside. After that, I'm going to go ahead and take another patch and just go ahead and clean the spring. The spring does not get very dirty at all, but it's important to get the front of it and the back. Then I'm going to go ahead and dry it off and set it aside. After that, we're going to be working on the slide. This is probably the dirtiest part of the handgun itself. And what you want to do is get a cleaning patch, put some bore oil on it again, and run it everywhere on the slide. Just make sure you keep it away from the firing pin. You don't want to get any oil or bore cleaner inside of the firing pin, but everywhere else, including the outside of it, needs to be cleaned. Now you can see the firing pin right there, and in order for me to clean that faceplate, I'm going to go ahead and pull this little lever down, and then the firing pin will go inside. So this allows me to put a patch through it and make sure that the top is fairly clean. Next, I'm going to grab another microfiber towel and then make sure that it's dry as well. After that, I'm going to work on the end of it. Another thing I like to do is I'm going to use my little plastic tool here and get the little edges and corners, all the little areas where my fingers cannot get to. Next, I'm going to clean the channels. So the channels where the slide rails go, they collect quite a bit of gunpowder, and that's also where your old oil sits as well. If you haven't used your handgun in a while, it'll probably be dry, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and run a patch through the channels as well and get any excess gunpowder off. If you haven't used your handgun in a while and the channels are fairly dry, then you might not really need to use it. It's not a requirement, but definitely makes the gun a bit cleaner. After that, I'm going to grab the microfiber towel again and make sure that all parts of the slide are fully dry and clean. And I like doing it this way because all of the parts of the handgun pretty much look new once I'm done. Then just to be safe, I'm going to run a dry patch through the channels again to see if there's any excess oil left. But they look pretty clean to me. So after that, we're going to go ahead and work on the other parts of the handgun and make sure that we get the outside plastics clean. Whenever you shoot the handgun, the gunpowder pretty much goes everywhere. It's going to land on the trigger, on the outside, on the slide itself, on the top. So it does not hurt if you have Hoppy's bore cleaner to pretty much run the patch on the outside everywhere. Then we're going to get the slide rails and all the metallic parts. I'm usually really careful around this area. I don't put any pressure on any metallic parts. I just kind of lightly clean the outside of it. And then as soon as I'm done, I will take the microfiber towel and dry it off. And then the gun is pretty much clean and ready for new oil. One other thing that I forgot to mention is that it does not hurt to also clean the magazines as well. Sometimes the gunpowder will be collected on the very top of it, so you can kind of wipe it off. The first thing I'm going to do is start with the barrel itself. We're going to put 1 drop of oil on the barrel and just spread it all around. The only part we want to avoid is pretty much getting any oil inside the barrel or the entry to the barrel. So this entrance right here, we want to make sure that we keep all of the oil off. Oils and bullets do not mix, and you don't want your gun to jam. So let's avoid that area there. For the spring itself, I'll go ahead and take a patch with a drop of oil and just run the spring through it a few times. The spring really does not need too much oil at all. Now, on the slide itself, we're going to start with the rails. So the rails where the slide rails go into, the channels, I should say, you want to make sure that you put 1 drop of oil towards the front and then 1 more drop of oil towards the rear of the slide itself. And you can sort of see it move inside of the channel. And then we're going to do the same exact thing on the opposite end. 1 drop towards the front and then 1 drop towards the back. And then we need 1 more drop of oil on the flat surface towards the top of the slide. And you don't have to spread it. If you want, you can go ahead and take a patch and just run it through on that flat surface. But if you leave it alone, the oil by itself will spread on its own using gravity. Now we're going to take another clean patch and then go ahead and clean the, or I should say lubricate the 4 slide rails. So those are the metallic parts. Those are the ones that go into the 2 channels on the slide itself, and making sure that we oil them or just run a patch of oil around them will just make the whole process a lot smoother, and making sure that the oil spreads evenly. Now Glock also does recommend that we put 1 drop of oil towards the trigger connector, which is in the very back. I'll go ahead and post an image so you can see exactly where a drop of oil needs to go. This area here does not need to be lubricated very often. It takes quite a bit of time for it to dry. So I would do it maybe once every 3 months or so. but the rest of the gun I would pretty much clean and oil after every trip to the range. Next, we're going to go ahead and take the slide and then reassemble everything back, making sure that the spring goes into that little spring indentation there. Next, we're going to go ahead and assemble it all back. So we're going to put the slide, I'm going to go ahead and put these slide rails and align it with the channels, and then go ahead and push it down. And then pull this slide back. And now it's all assembled. Let's go ahead and run it a few times to allow the oil to move around a little bit more. Now, one thing that you do want to do as well is make sure that you dry fire it in a safe direction again to make sure that your trigger works and that it resets so everything's working properly. And then wipe it off one last time to get any excess oil off. After that, go ahead and input your favorite ammo, load it up, and you should be good to go.